How's it going, everybody?
What's going on, everybody?
It's your boys, Edwin and Jose. We're missing one in action right now. Um, couldn't make it, but that's okay. We are your hometown podcast.
A
Um,
hometown podcast. That's right. What's
a
up, my man?
hometown podcast.
How
H
you
Town,
doing?
baby. I'm good. How are you? How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually at the grind. Just
Yeah.
couple minutes to step away, and then just talk a little bit. Talk life. Talk community, and just have a conversation, right?
Awesome.
And so I just want to encourage anybody that's watching or that's able to tune in. I know it's on Monday, so it's the beginning of the week, so I completely understand
Yeah.
you know the grind
Um,
behind that. So, but if anybody's watching or anybody has an opportunity to tune in or sees the replay, um, just tune in. Say, speak your mind.
Let us
Um,
know. If you even want to come on, we can send you a link that you join.
for sure.
This is a question and answers podcast that we're basically doing, but we can always just kind of talk life and talk whatever what's on our mind. You got anything on your mind right now, Jose?
Um, yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I want to talk about.
Okay,
And I think
rattle them off.
um, if anything, just kind of like keep it in regards to the community or Hudson, right?
Yeah,
Or our community of the people that we know.
yeah.
Um, and I think shout
Um,
out to everybody that I'm able to see on the platform of Facebook, and that even through that platform, I get to see how you're doing, and I get to see whether it be pictures of your family, pictures of your loved ones or your day, or just for me to get an idea that you're doing well, and even for the ones that I get to see that are going through trials and tribulations or going through it's I think even that kind of stuff propels me and kind of puts me in a place of like just kind of sit down with myself and kind of reflect on how we're moving in regards to the podcast one, but in regards to my own personal life and how blessed I am and all of that. So um if I had to go on specifics, I would mention a lot of y'all that I get to see on the daily and get to see your posts and stuff, but um I don't know, man. I just, if anything, I think it's the same thing, the same reason or the same way why I was pushed or pressed to do this project and such and many others to come. My community, my people, the youth, the generations, family, um, and all of that. So I don't know, just feeling a little, just on reflective mode. Just reflection, like sort of like, man, like what is it
yeah,
that we can do to change
of course.
maybe not the world, but at least our community.
Yeah, definitely.
To be honest with you,
Yeah, no, I hear you. Um, you know, we definitely have a big community in Massachusetts. Depending on where we are or where we grew up or um, you know, anyone who we affected or touched. Um, and it's really good to hear how everyone's doing, even after 10, 11 years as we get older, as we're old now. um, to see how you're doing, from high school days, when we were all immature and just funny people, to now being adults and being parents, and you know being successful in our careers, successful in our lives, successful in our relationships. um you know and the way that I measure a success, though, is if you're happy.
mm,
I don't measure it by like dollars and cents, even though it helps, but I measure it as, you're happy. You're doing something that fulfills a purpose for yourself.
mm.
Um, you know, uh, I see we got a few people watching. Why don't we go through with some questions, maybe? I will go ahead and read one of the questions. We had posted something a couple weeks ago when we were originally going to do the Q&A, and there was two questions that came through. One of them was, what zodiac sign do each of you get along with the most,
Yeah.
and which one do you get along with the least? Do you think? And also, what are your guys' zodiac signs? You want to start?
Um, bro, I kind of, all right. I don't want to sound rude, because I don't want to. Well, let's put it this way. It's not that I don't want to contribute. I just kind of don't. Stuff like that is not even like in my on my radar in the sense of like I don't even
Yeah,
dig into that for many
my
reasons. But it's just like I feel like I don't. Yeah, I don't know
I
much
understand
about
what
it.
you're
I don't.
saying.
I just don't even know
My
anything really.
answer was a little bit similar. It's more so like, so I'm a Taurus. I'm pretty sure you know your zodiac sign though, right?
Everybody says I'm a Gemini.
When were you
The
born? What I mean, what's your birthday?
June 12th, right? Is that the
June?
same?
That's not, no, that's not Gemini.
Is that the right lane of what we're talking
Yeah, yeah,
about,
it
right?
is.
Is that
Yeah.
because I don't want to be talking another language if that's not even at all. But yeah, man, everybody said
Oh,
that.
you are a Gemini. Never
My
mind. Yeah,
whole
yeah.
life,
You said
my
12th.
whole life growing up, everybody said that. I don't know what that
You
meant,
said
but
12th.
12th, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You are a Gemini. What am
Hey,
I saying? You are a
that means
Gemini.
everybody better write that down. I expect some good presents.
But for me, I don't necessarily think that. Oh, we got a question, but I don't necessarily think that I get along or least with a certain zodiac. I think I more get along with certain energies and certain, um, basically energies, certain energies. You know what I mean? If you're a positive person and you're, a happy person and you're doing what you need to, we're gonna be fine. I don't look at it that way, but where if you're constantly with a negative energy or a negative vibe, it's
Hmm.
not that I won't get along with you, but you're probably not someone that I would focus my energy onto. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I guess to politely and clean that up. I don't say I don't like anyone. I don't say that I hate anyone or anything like that. It's just, you know throughout your day, you just know there's people that you open the door for and they smile back, and then there's people that you open the door for and they're like, oh, yeah, thanks. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's the energy that you give off and it's the energy that you put out. But one of the questions that we just got was, this was last this was the last normal week last year before COVID changed our lives. Is there
Facts.
anything COVID has taught you guys?
So much.
You
I
want to
mean,
elaborate?
yeah, for sure. I remember this vividly, actually. Yeah, and it's crazy to think like, yo, it's been a year,
It's been a
like
year.
12 whole months of this shebang. And yet, when this went off, nobody really knew that this would be like a
A long
like
lasting thing. Like, everyone
yeah,
thought
that
maybe it was gonna go.
it was gonna go away, or it was like a come and go thing. Little did we know that this was the beginning to a whole different lifestyle
Yep.
forever. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't. There's no going back, or there's no going back to normal. There is no normal, right?
It was more so, it was the people who could adapt. You're gonna be fine. Whereas the people that can't adapt to something like that, it's gonna be a tough challenge for you.
Yeah, I mean,
Um.
there's so much, but there's so many angles, so many different um
Yeah.
perspectives even within COVID, right? Like there's just so many things to talk about. But if anything, for the sake of just love and grace, let's just keep it in the in the perspectives of you know of being able to put the differences aside of whatever people believe
Yeah.
in regards to COVID itself and everything included.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, that's the way I want to look at it.
Yeah.
COVID was like a wake up call in a way, right? And if anything, I would say it propelled me to for us to even be here, to
Yeah.
be conversating, right?
It did.
Um, but it was, I think, for me, the way I took it, the way I felt it, it was just God given me, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know a lot of people can relate to this. It was me, God giving me a chance to pay attention and to grasp what was real and what was not real, what mattered and what didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because as the way it happened, it was like, yo, everything just changed from one day to another. And the things that we took for granted, um, you know, it was kind of like, it's like, yo, people were dying, people are still dying. Um, your health, put your health, put your family, and to
Yeah.
know that, time is on at stake now, like there's
Yeah.
you might not have that time anymore with those loved ones. So what how are you living your life basically? And for me, that's what it was. It was kind of like, you know are you living your life to make the most of the time, with the gift of life, the time that you get every single day. Every day you get to wake up, for the ones that did get to wake up prior to COVID or all of that. And how are you enjoying your family? Are you making the best of yourself? Are you growing to be the best that you can be? Are you healing? And I think for me, that's what it was. It's kind of like, yo, anything could happen. Your whole
Yeah.
life, our whole world, and for me, it wasn't just one life. The whole world changed.
Yeah.
Um, so why pay attention to things that don't even matter anymore, but rather start paying attention to what was real, what really mattered in my life, my
Hmm.
family, my loved ones, my children, my my little clan, and also my parents, my sisters, my siblings, and
Yeah.
to realize, like, whatever time we have left, for me, whatever time I have left on this journey from here on out, I want to make sure that I'm on the right direction. So it put me on that, sort of like place
Yeah.
of, like, however you move from here on out, you kind of have to pay attention and kind of focus, and a lot of it for me, and I'll leave it at this, and then I want to hear from you. And it was healing, you know it
Hmm.
was kind of like, what why does it matter for you to achieve all these other things if you're still broken inside and the ones you loved are still broken? What does it matter if you get to have all these other things if at the end of the day, when your time is up, or when my time is up, or when my loved one's time is up, we didn't address the things that needed to be addressed? So then what happens then? And how does that secure my whatever the next step is after my life here on earth? Sort of like, man, time is real, and God's gift of, if anything, COVID put me in that place where God just kind of like gave me a chance to kind of redirect my calling, my path, my steps, and to come back home, if anything, or push myself to the next step or next level.
Yeah. Um, I guess for me, along with kind of the similar points that you had said, for me, I guess it was more so reflecting back on, what we took for granted, what we didn't take for granted, along with, I guess, taking some time and really, really, finding yourself again, if that makes sense. Like we have so much time that we took for granted from before,
Mm-hmm.
and we just didn't use it properly, or we were just so obsessed with going out, seeing many people, interacting with tons of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was kind of like when everything shut down, it was like it's you and whoever's in your household. That's who you should be focused on.
Mm.
And like me and my wife, I think for us, COVID kind of in a weird sense made us closer.
Yeah, of
And
course. Yeah.
like we've been together for 12 years, so it's like what can you really learn more of that you didn't already know, right? But it's like when you're I hate to say it this way, but when you're like forced to basically stay in one room or one area for
Yeah.
so long, you start to
Mm-hmm.
develop other conversations. And
Of course.
especially, like, I don't want to take it too serious or sentimental, but especially what happened over the course of this last year with the presidency,
Mm.
with the Black Lives Matter movement. And
Mm.
those were a lot of conversations that me and my wife uh talked deeply on. Like we
Of
had
course.
very deep intellectual conversations about it.
Right, right.
And
Of
it
course.
was like, me and her, as similar as we are, we're very different from each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah. I hear that.
And it was like me and her thought about the exact same outcome of these conversations. And it was like For instance, with the Black Lives Matter movement, we were just like at the same time that we know that this thing still goes on every day, even after the Black Lives Matter movement happened last year. It's still going on. There's always racism that's going on, but like we were just so dumbfounded at the fact that we were looking at our world and we're like, we're still here. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
still here. We still haven't excelled, made any progress, and it's kind of like those were the conversations that we really took, and um, we just kind of learned from it, and it was just a deep connection that we kind of like shared again. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
you have these conversations with your wife, and they could be as simple as like what you're getting for groceries tonight, but then you have other conversations where it's like you talk about life.
Yeah.
And right now we don't have any kids, but we talked about that as well. We talked about
Of course.
when we do have children, it's like look at the world that we're going to be bringing children into, and
Right.
it's either a you can be scared and give in to what it's giving out to all of us, or b we can make a difference. We can teach our children that there's a different way,
Mm.
so that when their generation takes over, hopefully there's a an outline of what we want to see or what
Amen.
they want to see.
Amen.
And so I think those are the conversations that I took more from COVID, along with like you know I guess like having a sense of purpose. You kind of said it. It was like have a meaning, having a reason for something. But it
Mm.
was for me. It was like having a sense of purpose. It's like you know, especially for me, like you wake up, go to work, but I could be working from home, and then you kind of end your day, but you're still at home, and it's like you haven't done
Mm.
anything. What really have you fulfilled as a purpose for that day?
Mm.
And it was like little simple little things. It was like finding a hobby, and
For sure.
I can definitely say I look for many hobbies throughout the year, and like it just happened to be an old friend of mine that came with an idea and a proposition that this basically is my hobby.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like people don't understand. For us, like we don't just get on the microphones and talk. Like we try to plan out. We try to plan out everything. We try to you know, when we're working on the banner, or we're working on our logos, we're working on like new topics for the following episodes. Um, for me, it was a sense of purpose. What purpose do I have each day or week, and fulfill that purpose basically. Um, I'm gonna read a comment. It
Yeah.
says, "I agree. COVID has really opened my eyes just to try to find the positive in every situation. Perspective is everything. We have to be more intentional with life. In life,
Amen. For
very true.
sure.
Very true.
No, man. I mean, it's yeah. No, I definitely I hear you, and I can relate to the process, right? Like to the process within yourself that you and Jay have been going through, and it's wild, right? Because like even to tap into a little bit, um, to like even take it another step, right?
Yeah.
You having these conversations with Jay, your wife, you both are Puerto Rican, correct?
Yep.
I'm having these conversations with my wife, and she's white, right?
Yeah.
She's American, Irish culture from
Yep.
Lowell, highly educated, right? And we have children, so we're sort of like at that other step that you guys are gonna be talking about
Exactly.
down the line. But nonetheless, these are real conversations that you are gonna have. And so whether it's you guys at the level that or at the place that you
Phase.
guys are in
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
journey, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Or whether it's me and my lady talking with three kids and waiting on our fourth. That's right. Um,
Oh.
but these are that's the kind of pressure that we get. Similar
Yeah.
like you, we're thinking about the future, and the whole, even this idea of the
Yeah.
podcast. These, and I'm sure everybody's having real conversations at home or with their loved ones, um, and also at um, you know, on the platform on Facebook, because I saw a lot of debates going on Facebook, and this is where it's not like it's not happening anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Conversations, um, and I think to each his own. Everybody gets to decide where they want to go with these conversations, whether you want to stay constructive or you want to go in destruction mode, whether you want to be open minded and you want to keep that love and grace, or you just
Yeah.
want to come from an arrogant place or an ignorant place,
Yeah.
because you lack so much other things. And it doesn't make anybody more or less than somebody else. It just means your ability to be able to see beyond what you can see, you
Yeah.
know. um so obviously, again, right, for me, these conversations go a little bit different or have a little twist to it when you're talking from two different cultures, or like you said, right, you and Jay, very similar yet very different,
Yeah.
right? So even these real hot conversations
Mhm.
at home, but it's your best friend you're talking to, so
Yep.
you understand that, like, no matter how it goes down, both of you are accounted for of to be at a place of, or wanting to be at a place of growth. So
Yeah.
even no matter how it goes down, or even if it doesn't go sweet, and it can go a little sweet and sour, it can go a little hot or whatever,
Yeah.
at the end of the day you realize, like, man, like, this is the person. If you're gonna have a debate or a conversation with anybody else, this is the one that's gonna hold you accountable for you
Exactly.
to grow or to be better,
Exactly.
or for you to learn, or vice versa, for you to teach somebody, but you got to be willing to be in the right state of mind, or for you to do it from the right place in your heart and in your mind, so that you're not hurting the people that you love just
Yeah.
by winning an argument or by winning a debate. It has nothing to do with it. So that's that, in regards to something real, right, that I can share with you guys,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you had those moments too, where it's like, yo,
Yeah. No. No. Definitely.
because I'm sure that, everybody is its own world, you know. Um, and like you said, now these are, being at home with somebody, um, which is the somebody that completes your life. That's a different conversation, or that's a different intimacy,
Yeah.
or like levels to reach of intimacy, from conversation to love, to get to know somebody on another level, and grow as a team or as individuals. Um, and so on and so forth. Um, you know, but that's that.
Yeah.
Um, I want to bring something up because I think it pressed hard on me. Um,
Before you bring that up, I
yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
I
Yep.
guess my wife had a follow up question to you
Yep.
to you. For you specifically, I guess it was, do you find it hard to speak with your wife coming from different cultures and backgrounds? And do you ever worry about interracial children?
Um, no, I don't, and I think this is what made it easier. It's the
Yeah.
fact that since we met, it's almost like we both came from different worlds. We saw what was good and what was bad, and we were those dreamers that were like, no, we got it. Life has to be different.
Yeah.
So our vision has always been, um sort of like, we gotta find the real meaning of life. We
Yeah.
didn't want to conform, so even though we come from different backgrounds and different cultures, within our own culture, we didn't want to conform,
Yeah.
and we were those dreamers that decided to come together and create this kick-ass team,
Yeah.
um to push each other to, to the next level, and find, what this whole meaning of life is about. Not that we have figured it out, but I strongly feel that we're in the right direction, and
Yeah.
that's why we move the way we move. That's why we we raise our family the way we raise our family,
Yeah.
because we hold ourselves accountable individually, and together we hold ourselves accountable to to make sure that we're always pushing ourselves, you know and again, not to bash on anybody else. This has nothing to do with anybody else, but is, if anything, we hold ourselves accountable to study, to analyze, to reflect, and not just conform, and not just settle for less, as people, as individuals, as parents,
Yeah.
as people from our own cultures. You know what I'm saying? And we get to decide, sort of like, man, this is how our parents did it. This is how our people did it. But we also realize that we're not taking pride in anything that's just from the wrong place, but if
Yep.
anything, how can we elevate ourselves and
Yeah.
how can we do it better? So it wasn't hard. It was just, if anything, learning, sort of like, I lack of culture, of knowledge of culture from the American culture. I came here when I was 9 years old, so there's a lot of things that I feel like I didn't necessarily grasp, um,
Yeah.
even when I was going through school, because I was too busy trying to learn the language barrier and trying to learn other things in my distraction as my youth went on, right? Or the distraction that society and the entertainment culture plays into role, right? Um, so I don't think, obviously when it was time to teach each other, or to for us to like weigh in and how we really felt, and for her to really hear my advocacy or my voice in regards to those that I could represent, then she had to hear that, and kind of, for her, she would have to push herself. And I feel like this is where, if I can't speak for it, but I can express on the journey or the process, sort of like, man, there's things that you won't understand what it's like because you're not black or because you're not Hispanic. So no matter
Yeah.
how hard you try, it's just what it is. Just like
Yeah.
me, there's things that I will never be able to understand or look at it from a perspective of somebody who is light skinned, because I'm not
Yeah.
that. And I have
Yeah.
to be okay with that. I have to understand that. But nonetheless, that means we have to come on top with growth, with healing, with maturity, and to know that this has nothing to do with one being better than the other, not me and her, but everybody, the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that we would always have to push ourselves, which is the foundation, is that no matter what we're talking about, no matter what the subject or what the problem, what the situation is, it always has to be love and grace. Even if it's not easy at the moment, even if it's not, that means it's on us, to dwell on it, sit on it, and kind of reflect on that, to make sure that we don't turn sour and bitter, because then we're not different than from everybody else,
Yeah.
making it worse, right?
Yeah.
Um, and in regards to our children being into, bro, it's a blessing. I
Yeah.
feel like we're adding to society by having children that come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like for anybody that feels any different, we understand the ignorance in their belief, and we realize that that's just hurt or brokenness on a different level, but we're okay with that because we understand that's their problem, not ours.
Yeah.
And it's our goal to empower our children to realize that they are worth so much more, having parents that come from different um backgrounds on life. And I feel like when we talk about it with them, it won't be from a color
Hmm.
perspective. It will just be more from like here, because at the end, ultimately, it's your mind and your heart that matters, right? So if
Yeah.
if I don't think it has nothing to do from what color skin you are. If you're damaged inside, then you're damaged, and you will give that to the world. So it don't even matter what color you are, or
Yep.
what your background is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. David Tebow says, "What's up, fellas? How you been?
Hey, what's up, David? What's up, bro?
How's it going, man?"
How you been? Fill us in on your life. You can
Yeah.
tap. Hey, feel free to join if you can. I don't want to put you on the spot, but or even just type in. Fill us in on your life or what things you want to talk about. We're talking
Yeah.
about the community, um, and the way we keep it relative is basically we are talking with people we grew up with. So that's
Yep.
everybody on this show, or everybody in the group, or everybody that wants to be part of it. Really, although it's our
Exactly.
hometown, this could be any hometown for anybody that's watching anywhere. Like this
Anybody?
relates
Yep.
to anybody.
Anywhere Massachusetts. It's all where we're from. Don't be camera shy. If you want to go on, let us know. But write it. Type in your question if you have any questions for us. Q&A. But before I followed you up with that question, you had another thing to talk about, or I guess
No,
dive deeper into.
yeah.
You were going to.
Well, I was gonna say, right, like, um, even as a segue in regards to COVID, like yo, it also pushed me in a place where, like you said, right, like
Work.
you got to reflect on sort of like, man, how is
Woo. He said, "Good guys, working up in Framingham, married and looking to start up that family life.
hey, let's
Hey,
talk
man,
about it. I'm
all
surprised
the
this
power to you and luck to you, and I hope it happens soon. And don't worry, you're not alone. I'm in the same boat soon,
hey, talk
and
about it.
you know, but
That's what's up, bro. Thank you for checking in and saying what up. I appreciate that.
yeah, of course. He said maybe next time I'll join up. Just saw you guys were live and wanted to say hello. We appreciate it, David.
For sure. We would love to have you and talk live, catch up, say
Yes,
what up.
sir. Let us know.
Um, but yeah, what I was saying is like, yo, um, it put me in that again, right? In that place of like, God just kind of like, pressing me and just convicting me of sort of like, man, like I love my community so much, and I see a lot of conversation
Yeah.
going on Facebook, and some productive, some not so much. Um, you know, appreciate
Thanks,
it,
guys.
appreciate it, bro.
Appreciate it, David.
You're the man. Um, and again, right? So even to make it more of like up to date. Today I saw a post with Alyssa Soul. That was her name. I think it's Alyssa Daniels now
Yeah.
because she's married. She has beautiful children. Her kids are cute, bro. I get to see her pictures when she
Mhm.
goes up with her family and stuff. Um, and shout out to Jessica Lambo too, AJ, wherever you guys are. All the love and grace to you guys. You guys are beautiful people and love your family. I love to see you guys do that. Um, and I'm just mentioning names just because I want to honor them before I forget. But
Yeah.
Alyssa had posted today, sort of like a situation she's going through, um, in regards to her health, and it just kind of like puts me in that like mode of like, man, like what can we do for our community,
Yeah.
whether it's just voicing out concern, whether it's just loving on each other, praying for each other, um and all of the above. We're coming up with ideas to how to tap into making this world a better place, especially for our future generations to come. That would be our
Yeah.
children, your children in the future, so on and so forth, or my little brother or our younger siblings, for that matter. Um, but just kind of like be more intentional, or like to really be about it, if anything. And I think for me that was part of it too, from COVID and all this happening, that it was kind of like, yo, we're adults now, and I feel like at some
Mhm.
point we were children, dreaming, aspiring to do things, but now it's our go. Right now we
Yeah.
get to really make a difference if we so desire. And the question or the challenge was, what's stopping me or what's holding us back, and that applies to everybody, right?
Yeah.
And that's with respect, because everybody's at different places in their lives and on the journey. But um I felt that for me it was kind of like, man, I gotta I gotta figure out what's holding me back and be able to knock that wall down so I can answer my calling, so I can answer, um
Yeah.
to that responsibility, or to that commitment that I felt that I was being convicted of or on, and so on and so forth, and diving into my creativity and my dreams and my goals and the projects that God had placed in my heart from a while ago.
Yeah.
But I felt that one of the things that had held me back was me not being in my pocket, meaning me not being in a place where I could offer the best of me, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so, again, I know I mentioned a couple people, but really, let's say Alyssa, right? Um, going through a situation in her family, and I feel like, this is where you need that community to support you, even just from loving you from afar, or if we need to come together in other aspects, why not,
Yeah,
you know? And I feel like I'm tired of when we were growing up, Edwin, I don't know, we had a sense of community. And I think that as we got older, we kind of saw that vanish, right? People became more sour and cold and bitter and distant.
yeah,
And I think that was one of the turnoffs that I had in regards to mass, to be honest with you,
yeah,
because I felt like, yo, everybody, and rightfully so, because I feel like I understand why that happens, and I feel
yeah,
like it's part of the territory to some extent.
yep,
But then where do you draw the line, or where does somebody stand up and say, I want it to be different, and I'm gonna take a stand, and why do I what do I do? You know, or what do we do? Because I feel like it's not a one person thing. It can be.
yeah. No, yeah, I understand that. I love that you keep using word. Hold on. I love that you keep using the word grace. I'm relatively new to this word and using it with myself so I can properly have grace for others. I think we all put too much pressure on ourselves. We need to have more grace and forgiveness even within ourselves so we can have grace for others and forgive others. I agree. I think so.
Facts. It starts
Um,
there, to be honest with you, and we'll dive a little deeper because I feel like this is good. That's a good.
good segue.
But let me hear from you in regards to the community and stuff. You know, sort of like what you think,
I guess.
or even let's talk about it because I feel like
Yeah,
we talked about this when we first linked up,
yeah,
when the idea first got brought to the table and we got to see each other, and we talked about Hudson, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's our
That's
community.
our
That's where
that's our
grew up.
hometown where we grew up. Yep.
And I
I,
was saying how I felt the shame that I felt like, yo, there was many times where people were going through their situations, and I felt like these are friends that I held dear for when I in our youth,
yeah,
and I felt like I wasn't even there for them,
yeah,
or
yeah.
I didn't even check in with them till later on, you know.
Yep. I feel like um I feel like that's like the common saying, like, not, I guess, to put it in a different way, like, since we graduated, we've had a lot of people unfortunately have passed, or their time was cut short for one reason or another. And I feel like that's one of the things that we all say. It was like, I wish I could have been there more for that
Mm-hmm.
person, or I wish I was able to talk to that person. And it's been, umpteen years since I've talked to them. And it's like, um, I feel like we all go through that. And for me, it's like I didn't really leave Hudson. Like, yeah, I don't live in Hudson anymore. I haven't lived in Hudson since I graduated. Really, it was like the year after I had left. But I'm still so close. You know what I mean? And I still follow up, or keep in touch with a relatively short amount of people who at least had an impact on me growing up. Whether it be really good friends that I lived right near, or really good friends from middle school into high school. And I feel like there's other relationships where I had, you know, either really good friends or very good acquaintances where it could have developed into something else and it just never formed that way. Or, there was other things of life that got in the way. And I feel like for me, it's like when there's a falling out, or when there's just a misunderstanding or something, we drift away. You know what I mean? we
Mm.
all we all fall away from each other. And it's like, who put that mentality into us in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, just because you don't get along with a certain person, or your life went a certain way and theirs went a different way, it's like, why did we all of a sudden just stop talking, though? Why did we stop making sure
Mm.
that everybody was okay? Why did we stop caring for one another? Or just a simple hello, or I see you just had a kid, like, congratulations, things. I feel like isn't enough for a lot of people. But
Mm.
like, um with the community and the outreach of this podcast, I feel like that's one of the things that we talked about, and that's one of the things that we really want to do. It's like, you don't know, there could be someone that really hung out with us back in the day, and they're just feeling a sense of emptiness or loneliness, or
Mm.
they're feeling like they can't tackle this pandemic like other people can, or they've lost someone and there's just an emptiness that is there, and but they're not going to go out and tell anyone about this. They're not gonna open up and speak to anyone. But when you hear it from other people that are feeling the exact same thing, or when we speak about it on the podcast, I feel like that's when you open up, or that's when you're willing to let yourself be vulnerable and say, you know what, it's like we all used to hang out, and it's crazy. Like you guys, even 9, 10 years later, you guys are going through the same thing I'm going through, and it's like I didn't know that, or I wouldn't know that. How could I?
Mm.
And I feel like that's one of the things that we talked about when you first told me about this, and it was like not just what can we do for our community, but like sometimes people just need to hear other people go through the same thing and know that it's okay, and know that regardless of how many years have passed, we're all here for everyone. Like I think it's more so as we really dive deep into the idea, I think I'm starting to understand it more myself. It's like
Mm.
I have no quarrels for anyone. I have no animosity to anyone, and it's like if there's anything that I could do, especially for my community, like that's that is something that I'd like to do.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like that is a sense of purpose for myself. You really think about it, like of your childhood and growing up, and just think of the many people that probably reached out to you when you were a kid and you didn't pay them mind because you were like, ah, whatever, like I have my friends or something like that. And it's like,
Mm.
look at yourself in this situation now, maybe trying to do the same thing for a younger generation. Would
Mhm.
they react the same way as us as we did back then?
Mhm.
Or that few 5-10% that really do need it, what can we do?
Right.
I feel like for me, this is more of mutual ground where we all talk. It's to have these type of conversations, these in deep, vulnerable
Mhm.
situations, so that we could all get it out there. Like I guess think of it as a form of therapy, if you will, like
Mhm.
free therapy. Like think of it like that, like just everyone having a conversation. What happens when someone goes into AA, or when they go into a community outreach? It's literally this that we're doing, except for everyone's in a circle, sharing their stories or sharing their experiences. And instead of doing that, we're putting it on a podcast, or we're putting it on a live stream, so that you could tune in and join us on these conversations, and then you know share, like someone that you may not know or at least expect may relate more than you into this.
Mm.
And I feel like that's the whole reason that we really started this, like you, myself, Mike, you know along with others that we've had
Yeah.
a plan to join.
Yep.
I feel like that was kind of the sense when we talked to Seth about
Mhm.
his job and like what he goes through. And it's like, I mean, I'm sure that you were surprised. You didn't know that he deals with these emotional, vulnerable people on a daily basis, and you're just kind of like, but when do you have time to breathe? Like you're
Right.
sitting there listening to everyone's
Yeah.
situation or their problem, and it's like, how can you not take your work home? Like me being in tech, I always take my work home
Yeah. Of
because
course.
you're always trying to finish. So imagine being someone who talks to people all day, going
Mhm.
through something or suffering. And this isn't just Seth. This is other people. It may be nurses, people in the medical field, maybe psychologists, people that we went to school with that became psychologists. Like you talk to a lot of people, and it's like, where's your outreach? And I feel like, not to keep bringing him up, but to Seth, like his is his photography. That's an outlet, and I feel like a lot of people don't have that, and that was the point of this year, more so than it was a pandemic where everyone had to stay inside and stay safe and 6 feet distance and all that. I think it was more so it was a way for everyone to get in touch with themselves, find a purpose, find
Right.
a hobby, find something to do that was forced on them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like if you didn't, that's okay. It's your life. But I feel like a lot of people took that advantage, and
Mhm.
I think this is what we came out with from the pandemic. We brought this onto the airwaves, to the streams,
Mm.
so that people could listen, so that people could engage. And I'm gonna stop talking because
No,
I've
no,
been
no. I'm
going for
listening
a
because that's
while.
no, that's perfect, bro.
No, no, no. Yeah.
I think
Um.
that's what it is, though, right? Because I wanna, obviously when we have when we get to bring guests on, that's an opportunity for us to talk about their craft or their passion. But
Yeah.
moments like this, let's say episode like the like these, um, are the ones that that obviously when we got to talk about it, then let's talk about it, right?
Exactly.
And it matters for me, or it matters for us to be as vulnerable as possible, and for you to speak your mind and your heart, because I think at the end of the day, then that's the purpose, that's the essence of this.
Yeah.
um and yeah, I mean, shout out to Seth, um and to shout out to everybody, um anybody that's considering coming on the future episodes for us to just talk life,
Yeah.
and I feel, yeah, and I feel like that, man. I feel like, yo, like I said, and like I told you guys, I feel like it's not like people aren't talking already. So if anything, let's talk constructive, meaning
Yeah.
that, like, yo, if one thing is people talking nonsense, or not nonsense, but talking things that perhaps are just, just for fun and giggles, right?
Yeah.
But I think my concern and my challenge was that it's kind of like, all right, then why don't we talk about things that we need to be talking about,
Yeah.
things that will propel us to kind of start, like you said, right? Kind of have a sit down with ourselves, have that moment to find ourselves. And if you're having a hard time even going there, then even that is a conversation to have,
Yeah.
And I feel like
Of
we're
course.
adults now, and the pressure or the despair that I have is my children, my
Y-
family,
Yeah.
um, realizing that the only way I can be better or be the best self or give them the best of myself is if I'm okay inside, if
Yeah.
my heart is okay, if my
Yeah.
mind is okay. And, through that process, then I understand that if I don't address my brokenness, my heart,
Hmm.
my pain, my hurt, um, then I'm limited to how much
Yeah.
good, or to all of I could be or I could give to my children,
Yeah.
right? So that creates another conversation, another set of questions. Then how
Yeah.
do I start? You know? And I feel like for me, analyzing the world, reflecting on the world, reflecting on life,
Yeah.
that's where time is being wasted,
Yeah.
right? And obviously it's not just, people's own decisions, but there's the whole world
Yeah.
trying to distract you from having these real conversations, or having these real moments with your family, with your loved ones, with
Yeah.
yourself, or to tap in into, kind of like really be honest with yourself and start peeling those layers.
Yeah.
So if we have already that kind of pressure, or that kind of war against everything that's trying to keep us from that, you know, that's already a struggle. I can only imagine what the struggle is when we do have those sit down with ourselves, and we try to dive in into, kind of like that real talk with ourselves and say, man,
Yeah.
like,
I think that has a good segue into like this is a topic that I want to bring up. I really wanted to have it when Mike was on here, but we could always revisit a little bit later on this as well. And I
mm-hmm,
think that one of the topics for me is that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's probably getting talked about more now, but it really wasn't something when you and I were kids.
mm,
It wasn't something that was really brought out because it was the perspective that someone saw you. And what I'm talking about basically is like men or boys' mental health. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm-hmm,
So I'll give you an example. It's like there back then it wasn't really talked about because what's the first thing that people think about when a man or when a young boy tries to let his emotions or feelings go?
you're soft.
You're soft. That
Yeah,
you're
you're
weak.
weak. Yeah.
You're a weak person. You're a weak-minded guy, and you're not a man's man.
And
And
I'm
I
gonna
feel
say
like
this with all the respect, or when they see you in tears, right? Like only women cry, or maybe that's a
uh,
culture perspective that I
yeah,
heard a lot, right?
girls cry, boys don't cry.
Yeah, well, that's
Yep.
yeah.
And I feel like that type of mentality, we understand where it came from. We understand that was the generation before us. We
Mm,
understand that it was probably our parents' generation that really, brought that into light.
mm,
And it's like now, why do we have so many men who probably hear that all their life, and then they grow up and they're broken,
mm,
and they experience loss, they experience suffering, they experience addiction, or they
mm,
experience something that they can't handle. But what's the first thing that someone told them to is men don't cry.
mm-hmm.
And what
They gotta
do?
be,
You bottle that in, you
yeah.
keep that inside. And I feel like one of the people that really brought this out into me is my wife. Like, and I work on it all the time, I still work
Mm,
on it.
mm,
One of the things that she told me is I keep everything inside and I need to stop doing that.
facts.
And it I didn't really understand what that meant until I really had to look at it, and was like, what was the first thing I was told to me? Stop crying.
Mm,
Boys don't cry. Be a man.
mm,
You're gonna be a punk? Are you soft?
mm,
You know what I mean? And
mm,
it's like you either had to put, bottle it up and put it away, or you let your emotions go, and everyone saw you as a wimp. Everyone saw you as a kid that could get beat up or bullied all the time because you were soft.
mm,
And I felt like for me, the reason why I bottled it in because I didn't want to be looked at it like that. I wasn't soft. I wasn't gonna get bullied, and
mm,
so that's where where you lash out on people. That's where you got into fights. That's where you got into arguments with kids all the time, and you know um, you get labeled as a jerk or an asshole, and it's
mm,
like you learned all this from when you were younger, and it's like I want you to talk. I want to get your perspective on it, and it's like you know what we know now, knowing that it's okay for women and men to talk their emotions or talk to someone about it, because as you grow up, maybe back then you were embarrassed, or you didn't want to be labeled as something when you're a kid. But it's when you're an adult and you know that you have children that are watching your every move, or watching your every conversation, listening to every conversation that you're having. Like, how do you what's your perspective on it, basically?
oh man, like that's
And we don't have
that's
to go completely in,
that
because I want to
that's
I want to get
real.
Mike's perspective on this.
That's real though. That's real.
And
I
like,
mean, I think that's where it all begins, right? I think when it all begins when we're children, and I think that trauma is the foundation to a lot of our brokenness and a lot of our hurt, and that's for both boys and girls.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, I come from family dysfunction, so man, like I can relate so much to what you're saying, and I gotta give shout out to Jay, your wife, right? Because I relate to that. I think my wife was God's gift to me to she loved me when I couldn't even love myself,
yeah,
to say that least. And I know
yeah,
people say that and it could be a cliche, but it's true.
yeah,
And I think a lot of us men or boys will relate to that. Whoever God places in our lives to be that person, they come to kind of love us when we are just broken little boys inside, you
yeah,
know. Um, and man, like, and the other part of it too is that, like, yo, coming from a lot of trauma, you end up becoming both, right? Like a victim, and you also end up becoming an abuser too, because your anger, your bitterness, or your brokenness also, like you said, it lashes out on people, or one way or another affects everybody you interact with, and you hurt people. And there's so many people that I went to school with, or even bringing it back home, right? Girls and boys that I feel like, I have to, when I get the opportunity, that I would love to just genuinely ask for forgiveness for, whether I said the wrong things or whether I did the wrong things to them, both
yeah,
girls and boys. Um, and now that I'm an adult, I can, it took me, man, like, it took me a while to realize how broken I was. And I
yeah,
think that's what it was, that like I didn't realize that that who I had become was a direct correlation of everything that I had bottled up inside.
Yeah.
Because not only, and I came from loving parents. Um, my dad wasn't somebody who told me, that like men don't cry. He was never that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But from our Hispanic culture, you're taught that life is life, and you gotta suck it up, and you gotta keep rolling with the punches.
Hmm.
And I understand that life is life, right? But it doesn't mean that you're supposed to keep that pain inside, or that you have to accept the world to be cold for you to become bitter and sour, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that statement is kind of like really saying when you say, like, you gotta suck it up and roll with the punches. So that's just life.
Yeah.
It's like you're being told that you shouldn't process that.
Yeah.
You know, um, but I mean, yeah, man. Like
And
I
you're also not being told a way to fix it.
right, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's almost like you're accepting that the world is cold, so then you learn to be cold yourself.
Yeah.
It's almost like yeah, like I feel like that's the biggest lesson, wrong lesson that we got or that I got. And not
Yeah.
just from like, my culture, but like from people in general that like, yo, people are messed up and the world is messed up and that's just how it is. So you
Yeah.
gotta live with that. And that I feel like kinda suppresses you or it kinda it, it starts dictating the way you view the world and the way you got to move from here on out after you suffer
Yeah.
or after you undergo pain,
Yeah.
because of people's actions. um and I think, man, I remember the first time I was working at and that's the other thing too. I feel like, yo, I was very self-righteous growing up,
Hmm.
and I think this is where, like, yo, people will know and people will relate. I carried myself to feel that I was better than other people, maybe because my mentality was I had grasped the bigger picture at a young age, but
Yeah.
that was just conceptually. Yet at the same time, I was just a broken boy inside,
Hmm.
right? So, man, like I think I was 19 years old the first time somebody grabbed me. And once they got to hear my story, they knew I was in pain, but it's almost like I hadn't even realized it
Yep.
myself to that extent. And
Yeah.
they grabbed me and they hugged me so tight, man. And just like I don't know if you've seen that movie, Goodwill Hunting, right?
Hmm.
There's a
Where he
scene
said
where
it's
the
not your
guy
fault.
grabs him and he says, "Yo, it's not your fault." And then he goes like, "Yo, I know." No, he goes, "It's not your fault." He goes, "I
Yep.
know, I know." And then he really looks at him and the kid breaks down, right? Breaks down. And I feel
Yeah.
like I had a similar moment like that. Because I felt like my whole life I wasn't able to process that. Um, and it wasn't until this lady grabbed me and she's like, man, she, just like grabbed me. She said, you are so loved and you are somebody so special. And I'm sorry that all of that happened to you. And
Yep.
that's where it kind of brought me to all of those things
Yeah.
that I had to undergo good, the bad, the ugly, where I was a victim and where I had also done so many messed up things. And even to bring up Jay and what she said about love and grace, I think the journey began where I had to start loving myself before I could even tackle my own hurt
Yeah.
or tackle the pain that I had caused on other people. I had to start loving myself, but even that was a long process that it doesn't just happen from one day to another. And
Yeah.
that's me having a support system. So, like you said, imagine for those, right, or for the viewers or for people that we know that didn't have that support system or that
Yeah.
don't have that support system.
Yeah.
That's even a harder reality, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how do you live with that, or how do you survive that day by day by day? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
And
this applies to everybody, really. And I feel like, fast forward all these years, and I don't want to cut out from the original question that you have brought up, or the subject that boys don't cry, is a complete, man, it's like the worst thing you could teach your young boy, your child.
yeah,
Um,
I feel
but
like.
Yeah.
Well, not to interrupt you, you can continue in a second. I feel like to go along with that though. I feel like where where it went wrong is that from an early age, you've been told a certain saying, or you've been told what should be this, what boys should be doing, and what girls should be doing. And it's like at no point in time as you continued from, let's say, it really started at like 2 or 3 years old, from 2 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 12, 15. At no point in time anyone really thought, am I really telling them what I'm telling them? Does this really make sense?
Mm,
What I'm telling them, do I really believe this? Do I really think that he shouldn't be let his feelings show, or like, should I let him become, and this isn't in your situation, anyone's situation, it could be anybody's
mm-hmm.
situation, but like a lot of the times you see a couple together and it's like, do I really want my child to become their father? Do I really want them to become like their uncles or their older cousins
Mm,
who were all raised like this? And you see, as they grew up,
mm,
there may have been a certain quality about them where they were told this all their life, they bottled everything in, and they became rude people,
mm-hmm.
or they maybe they had the same type of mentality as you, where they thought they were better than others. You know what I mean? And it's like, at no point in time did anyone think, is this correct?
I
You know what I
think
mean?
I think that, and I again, right, I think reflecting on all of that, um, and just really like trying to understand, because of my hurt and my pain and my desire, my despair to want to figure out why.
Yeah.
I understood that all that was because of a broken generation before, so this goes way back. Like there's no,
Yeah.
this didn't just start yesterday. This didn't
Hmm.
just start the generation before as our parents. This started before them and before that generation and this goes way back.
Yeah.
And I think as the human race has gone through the years and the decades, you know however they held themselves accountable and whatever responsibility they took
Yeah.
to deal with their pain and their hurt, that's what they were able to do, you
Yeah.
know. But I feel like, how are you even supposed, and again, right, love and grace, because I feel like for me, in order for me to be better, I have to forgive, you know, the generations that taught us the wrong thing.
Yeah.
um, and I understand that they were only limited to what they got. So if you come from a broken home, from a broken family, from brokenness, from pain, from hurt, and you don't tackle your pain the right way, because I think that we can even dive even deeper into that, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't address your hurt and your brokenness, then that brokenness goes to your children, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth, so on and so forth. Um, and I think that that's what it was. Obviously at some point everybody makes a choice, everybody makes a decision, sort of like, where do you want to break the cycle?
Hmm.
um but like I said, then then it becomes like, yo, some people might not even know that there's a way to do it. Some people are just too broken. Some people don't have that support system. Some
Yeah.
people don't know that there's still hope, there's still a way out, that you can
Hmm.
have peace within your heart, within your mind, that you can be loved, that love is still real. And I
Yeah.
feel that exactly that the world has grown bitter and cold, that people just kind of give up and accept that, as to that's the reality, and that's just how the world is, so that's just how we're supposed to be. That life is rough, that there's messed up people, so then you got to change and move that way. But in reality, it's the other way around, you know um that, like, that you have a say, and that you get to decide when, you know that you can change the mentality, that you can be the difference, that you can make the difference
Yeah.
in your community, or in your, starts with you yourself, within your family, and then it expands to the people around you.
Yeah.
um
And I think I want to clear up too, for like, I guess some people maybe, so just because you're from a broken home, or just because there may have been you had experienced a broken home, doesn't mean that you had a bad childhood. I wanna like clear that up too. You know what I mean? Like I feel like when people think of a broken home, they think like the child isn't loved.
Yeah,
Maybe they think that
it's
the
just
child is either being abused or um there's far too responsibility being put on that child. But like you can come from a home that was not broken and could have been broken later on, but you
hmm
still had a good childhood. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you didn't have the love and warmth from your parents. It doesn't mean that they didn't care about you. It doesn't mean that you know that they didn't teach you values that you carry with you today. It's just like you said, from the generations and generations and generations, this is what they passed down to you and what was passed down to them from their parent, which is your grandparents, and what was passed down to them. You know what I mean? And I guess what it really stops, like the buck stops here. Like it needs to be us realizing what values we took that are good, what values that were told to us that we know are not good, or
mm,
that do not work anymore, or that
mm,
should have been stopped many years ago. And I guess from there, it's enough of us seeing that and passing down the correct values that we think should be passed down. And you know what I mean? And we could make mistakes as well. We're not saying we're perfect. We're not saying that we're not going to make the same mistakes. Obviously, with generations and generations doing the same thing, I imagine somebody, not just me and Jose, stood
mm.
up years ago and probably thought the same thing. But life goes on, and there's certain things that happen. But it's like, and that's why I want to revert back to that question, like the values that you want to instill to your sons and even your daughter as well, like what's right and wrong, but also at the same time, like being able to have them, you know, being able to have your sons or your daughter come to you and say, I'm sad because of this,
Mm,
or I'm hurting because of this, and you being able to process that and understand that, and then being able to guide them into their correct journey.
mm,
Whereas, like we said, I feel like in the past, a little boy probably told their parent they were sad, and they're like, "Of what? You're fine."
yeah,
You know what I mean?
and I think that's yeah, I know, and I think that right, like going back again to the same thing, because obviously that parent wasn't in tune
Yeah,
with realizing like, man, like this is where it all begins, right? Like that the reflection or the clarity to see that life is just so precious every day that goes in, every day that you come out. For a child, like it all, everything adds up from day one
yeah,
all the way up, you know.
hmm
And I think it can go any which way, because like even now we can even tackle, right, like brokenness from different angles. Like this doesn't just apply from one perspective. This is from different cultures, like what is broken to our white community, like our people that we love and people we went to school with. And if it's offensive for me to say that, I apologize. It just comes from like a place of love, like our white community, or our brown community, or Hispanic community, or whatever. I don't know how to say it, but I feel like it's all different, because
hmm
while me, let's say me and you, Edwin, right? Our parents were grinding all the time, and our parents weren't necessarily home all the time, to be able to pay that much attention to us and what was going on in our lives, um, to them being busy to just, not pay attention in our studies, or not be on top of our academics, or
yeah,
for that matter, even support the idea of you playing a sport, blah, 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 right? Going to your games, having that run with you, which is very like precious
yeah,
in a child's life or childhood, right? To the ones that did have that, to the ones that didn't, their parents didn't have to rent the home, that already had a home, and there was a lot of blessed, fortunate families that we knew, that we grew up with, but yet their family was broken in a different way,
yeah,
or there was brokenness in a different way, there was hurt in a different way,
yep,
you know. So it's I mean, like, if obviously, like, this is how I would love to hear from anybody else or anybody who can who can relate, but perhaps in a different that can enlighten us, sort of like what their journey was like, because obviously my journey was different and it might be similar to yours, but it was different, and yours was different at when,
Yeah.
um, so on and so forth. And then, obviously, like, holding yourself accountable now that we're adults, or what can we do to even just start that conversation, from this, but like even take it further into what we can do, what can I do to help, what can we do as a collective, to
Yeah.
help and guide each other, especially now that we're adults and we're having children of our own, and to just kind of like take that responsibility to say like, yo, we gotta do it different, you know.
Hmm. Agreed. And like I said, and that's it starts with this. Starts with these conversations. Starts
Hmm.
with conversation with friends. Starts with conversations with your community, with your loved one, your best friend. Um, but it really, really starts with having conversations with your children. And every parent gets to decide when they have these type of conversations with their children. That's I'm not gonna critique anyone's parenting
Hmm.
or judge them off of their parenting, because I feel like I know people where they think a conversation like this is too early for a kid that's 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And then there's others that feel maybe even talking to a kid that's like 9 years old, this is too far.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But it's like at some point you want to have you want to start these conversations so that they understand how to have meaningful conversations as they grow. And from there, it's like you don't want to be too late, because having this conversation to a kid who's 13, 14 years old, who's probably more influenced by his friends, because it
Mm.
happens. It happened
Yep.
with us. Although we had responsibilities and stuff like that, but we had our friendship, and we went and we rather listened to our friends, or we hung out with our friends and spent more times with our friends than with our family. That's just what happened. But you don't want to be too late where they don't listen to you, or they don't take into account the real conversations, because they don't know how to have one anymore, and they feel
Mm.
that they're not going to need one as they grow.
Right.
Um,
I
but like
think
I said, that's everyone's choice whenever you want to do that. But um, I just think, you know, everyone listening, or whoever can get in on the conversation, either a comment or whatever, um, this is where they need to be had. That's what I'll leave it at.
mm, yes, sir. Um,
Yeah.
go ahead. I don't know if you were gonna say something.
No, no, I wasn't. I was gonna say, did you have another quick topic before we wrap it up? We got 17 minutes, 16 minutes.
Um, no, I think if anything, let's just keep it, just again, and I think, Alyssa Daniels was the one person that kind of stood out in
Yeah,
my whole day today. I think
yeah,
in regards to my community back at home. But I don't discard or dismiss, the hardships that a lot of other
yeah,
people that we know are going through, or, by losing family members,
yeah. And I feel like
who lost family members.
if
Um,
anyone's going through anything, we hope everything either gets better, or we hope, you know, that you're not alone going through it. That
for sure,
sometimes you just need someone to talk to.
yeah, and even for that matter, even in a more discreet or private way, we're available. I'm sure,
Hmm.
you would take up on that. But if anything, if somebody
Yeah,
feels like, man, like I feel like I need to voice something out, that you would feel encouraged and
yeah,
that feel empowered, to just come on and share light
yeah.
through whatever you're learning through your process, or that you feel that, we can learn as a community to be a better support system to each other. Um, or that might help somebody who going through a similar situation,
Hmm.
um, whether it be, from health circumstances, to whatever it is that you feel, and this is, again, I feel like, yo, um again, like, this is where, like, I feel like I want to have a lot of our friends, a lot of our girlfriends that we went to school with to come, because I feel like
Hmm.
that's such an essential voice, a necessary voice, um from our girls, to come on
Yeah.
and speak from, from that angle, and for us to be able to hear and listen and, understand whatever that may be.
Yeah.
um
And not to cut you off, but
yeah.
I think this is a good comment as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Do we
this
know
is
who it
actually from
is?
my father. So tell me how you really feel. But
Yeah.
let's talk about it. Yeah. So he goes, parents always find it hard to watch their children make some mistakes they need to make to learn to be adults. And I think we've had conversations like, just a quick 2 minutes. We've had conversations a little bit on this as I've gotten older, as I've grown. I have apologized as well
Hmm.
for the mistakes or for the viewpoint that I had about my father or his parenting when I was younger.
Hmm.
I felt that, you know, there was a lot of things that I could have done different. Um, and, when he makes comments like this, I understand. I completely understand what you mean by when I was younger. You could have tried to tell me something,
Yeah.
and I would have just listened to myself and stuck to myself, and that's exactly what I did. And there was times where I had to learn a hard lesson. I had to learn it myself to be able to understand what I was being told, because I was being a lot of the ignorance. I was
Hmm.
being hard headed
Hmm.
and stuck in my own ways. And I feel like a lot of people will definitely relate with that. I don't know if you've had conversations with your parents as you've gotten older,
For
maybe
sure.
because you now have children
For
and you
sure.
probably go to them and, how did you deal with it when I did this? And
Yeah.
they probably tell you blatantly honest, you didn't listen.
Yeah.
But um, I think that's a great comment. I'm going to
Well,
take it
I
off.
think,
But
I definitely, I agree, and I gotta agree with him, and also flip it a little bit too,
yeah,
because I think there was a lot of lessons that I had to learn the hard way, that, like, I wasn't listening.
hmm,
And again, maybe I was too hurt to understand what they were trying to communicate, or too
yeah,
hot headed, like you said. um, and I had to learn the hard way. And it wasn't until I went through that, then I understood, or over and over again, you know. And
yeah,
now that I'm a parent, I definitely understand. But there were also other things that contributed to why I was moving the way I was moving, was because they lacked, or they were limited to their parent skills, or
yep,
their loving skills, or their approach was limited in regards to
hmm,
the way, or to what they were trying to teach me. So it could have gone a different route if they were more in tune or more prepared.
yeah,
And that, again, right, that puts accountability on every generation. So for
yeah,
them,
hmm,
and also for us, to say, like, yo, now retrospectively, like, I we had a lot of healing to do, me and my family, and it's still a process, because I feel like that's where it all starts, with your closest loved ones, right?
yeah,
Now that you're an adult, then you get to tap into your brokenness, and that started at home. So a
yeah,
lot of forgiveness that my siblings have to do with me, because I fell short and I failed them in ways that I got to live with myself.
yeah,
And same thing with my parents, ways that I broke their hearts over and over and over again, and that we have to undergo a process of forgiveness and healing, and vice versa. a lot of a lot of trauma, and it doesn't have to be like physical trauma, but because they were so short on their full potential as parents, then that kind of contributed in a negative way to how they could have loved me even more, or supported me, or what they could have done for me and my siblings, um that change the trajectory of my life, or the rest of my life. So like, even going back again, back and forth of like, a lot of things that I had to understand, that like it was just me not listening and not trying to understand. But then a lot of it was like, you as a parent also fell short in the ways that you could have taught me with love, or
Hmm.
with this, or you could have found a different way. That what you did your best, and I gotta accept that, forgive you for that, but also accept, both are like,
Yeah,
accept where we fell short, and be able to love each other and forgive each other, and be able to move on and fast
yeah,
forward where we are now.
yeah. I completely agree, and I think one of the things that people don't understand too is another aspect is when the parents aren't on the same page, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to then instill
Right.
or bring these values to the child or to
Correct.
to the kid.
Correct.
Because when one parent is saying one thing and then the other parent is either undermining them
Mm-hmm.
or they're just saying don't listen to that, that's not true. You now have to think of what the child is going through, and they're saying, well, mom said this isn't true. I
Mm-hmm.
Mom says I don't have to listen. I'm going to listen to mom because it favors me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, or vice versa, dad's saying don't listen to her, that's not true. Well, dad's saying it, so sure, okay, it favors me. Why listen to mom? And I feel like that's one aspect that a lot of people lose as well, because the real conversations, or where it really starts with, is the parenting between both parents.
Right.
You know what
Or
I
the
mean?
growth,
Being
the growth of each parent individually
Yes,
and as a collective, which
yes,
brings it back to now you're an adult. So like, whatever
yes,
brokenness you have, if you're not addressing those things, that
yep.
carries with you in every aspect of your life. So whether you're trying to be a father,
And you
whether
see,
you're trying to
it's
be
a
a
circle.
stepfather, whether you're trying to be a mom, whether you're trying to be a teacher, whether you're trying to be a role model, if you have a lot in here that is not being addressed, is gonna limit you, and that's where it becomes even more real, right? Because now you
Hmm.
have people that are under your responsibility, your
Yeah,
loved ones, your children. So, as a collective, it's a dysfunction, but it's probably because individually people are not having that self accountability to
yeah.
know that you can do more. And the only way you can do more and be more is if you start here.
And along with that, if you think about it, it's really a cycle because, like you
Right.
said, it's now two people. One
Mm-hmm.
person was brought up one certain way with certain values and certain wrongdoing, maybe completely terrible values,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the next person was probably um, brought up with similar values but in a different sense. So now it's
Mm-hmm.
like you both have to have an internal conversation to then think about how you're going to pass those down. You know what I mean? And like I feel like that's the aspect that I'm talking about that gets missed. So um, when I say that, you know, as a child, I probably could have listened in a different way, or if it was explained to me in a certain way. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I felt like because of the dysfunction between both parties, both mother and father, I
Yep.
felt like that was a big factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I can't blame them for that because
Mm.
that's how it turned out.
Right, right.
I accept the way that I was raised. I accept the way that things were taught to me. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in one sense my mother babied me, and
Mm-hmm.
in another sense I feel like my father tried to show me things that my mother got in the way of
Mm-hmm.
by babying me or by telling me I didn't have to listen. So
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm not going to listen
Mm-hmm.
because it favored me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as I've gotten older, as an adult, I feel like that's where my mother was in the wrong. And I've
Mm-hmm.
told her this, and she knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we've accepted it, and we've had these conversations. Like, believe me, when I
Mm-hmm.
say I've had deep conversations with my wife, I've had deep conversations with my mother, I've had deep
Mm-hmm.
conversations with my father, and it has to be done
Right.
because I
Well,
need to understand what went wrong or what could have been fixed or presented to me in a different way so that I can go and provide that to my child or
right,
talk to my wife
right,
about it so that we could start our own family. You know what I mean?
right.
And I feel like that's where it really starts. Um, how do you feel about the way a first child gets brought up? Oh, wait. Oh, it's a comment. Oh, I thought it was a question.
Well,
I don't
it
know. Maybe
is.
it isn't.
It
How do
is.
you feel about the way a first child gets brought up differs versus second, third, or fourth?
Well,
I don't have children, so Jose.
well, I think you probably can relate with your siblings. I think what happens, right? And this is not even far from a conversation that we already having, that we're already having. I think what happens is that as you have your journey with your children, you learn and you get better as a parent if you so desire or you hold yourself to that kind of accountability and responsibility.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that's what I saw with my parents, and that's what I see with all the different parents. And now that I'm a parent, is what I'm seeing. Man, like your first child, at least for me, I can speak for myself. Faye, my daughter, came in, just brought me back home. God, that was God's gift, man. Like I was crawling for my life. At that point, 2015, and she came and knocked it out the park, bro. She rocked my heart to the level that mushed my heart,
yeah,
and it was necessary. And then Miles came and took me to the next step to show for God to show me the next aspect of my life that I needed to work on, and so on and so forth, you know. And I think that's what happens. I think that, you know, obviously parents change, their perspectives change, they
hmm
learn what they can do differently, if they do it from the right place, you know, obviously. um, but I think in my understanding of parenting, I think that's what I've been able to kind of learn and grasp and reflect on and analyze is that, you know, parents get a little bit more loving as the younger ones come up, but because like they
yeah,
learn, you know, through the trajectory of their run with all their children, and they get better. And I think it's supposed to be that way, you know,
yeah,
because the thing is that, like, yo, nobody in this, right? Like in like you said, you know, you have to, you yourself have had to have these conversations with your folks to understand where your pain comes from, where your brokenness comes from, in order for you to be able to move on and heal,
yeah,
and for you to be better in your run with your own family, or as you have your family. But you know, no parent is like, yo, boom, I know how to be a parent and that's it. Like it
yeah.
doesn't come like that. It's not no, and there's no parent now, before, and forever and always that will have it all together. It's not supposed to be that way. Because the reality is that you're supposed to be evolving as a person, as a human being. And then when you're talking about in the family aspect, then whatever role you play, you become better and better and better at it
Yeah,
as the years go by, or as your children teach you. And that's the thing, that children come with that gift. They come to teach you and equip you with everything you're gonna need to be the best that you can be. That's if you so desire, and you hold yourself to that challenge, and to that accountability and to that
yeah.
responsibility, you know?
And I guess, and I think that sort of answers the second part of that was, do you think a parent gets better as gets better as a parent, which you explained, or tired and let stuff slide? And I think it's like you said, it's if you hold yourself accountable
Yeah.
in learning and progressing and
Mm-hmm.
processing, then you're not gonna let those stuff slide. You're really
Yeah.
gonna know that what you instilled into one kid, they grasped it, they took
Mm-hmm.
it, and it was a core value that you're going to pass down to the
Mm-hmm.
second or third child. And I'm not even a father, and I think that way. I think
Yeah. Or you could take the easy way out, the easy route, and let stuff slide by
yeah,
because you become comfortable and conform
hmm
to just not caring as much, or to not pay attention as much, or to be too entertained with whatever life is trying to entertain you with, because being a parent is not easy. It's not
yeah,
like it's a responsibility. So if you find it to be a task that it really checks you in, but like you don't want to take that kind of responsibility, then what happens is you let stuff slide by, or you tackle it from the easy way out, which you just kind of conform and just whatever, you know. And I think it just becomes, and I think that's what it is, though. It's a self, you know, accountability into what kind of parent you want to be. and you decide whether you want to be that kind of parent that you're going to do whatever it takes to always and constantly pushing yourself to the next, how you can get in a different pocket or be better and better in different areas, and how you can, you know um do things differently, do things better. And I think progressively what will happen is that as you try to tackle all these things, it's always going to point you back to yourself. And the only way you can be better in all those areas is if you keep peeling those layers of yourself that limit you from being better and better, Or again, if you don't, or you feel like you don't have it and you're too hurt or you don't want to deal with it, then you'll just conform and just kind of settle for less. And that's to each his own. Like, I don't say that in a judgmental way, but I feel
Yeah.
from an understanding of life, from what I've been able to grasp, um, I feel like that's how it goes down. From simple to like what you let your kids watch to what you let your kids eat. Um, Based on what's easier. Is it easier for you to just let them do whatever, eat whatever, or do you care enough about their health that you will, and so on and so forth? Like, that's just an example. It's just,
Yeah.
but then that really holds you accountable. The challenge is on you because what are you showing? Not just telling your children. That's another aspect, right?
Hmm.
That we can talk about. Like, it's easy for you to demand all these things from your children or your kids, but yet yourself don't hold yourself to that kind of standard. And that's a whole another conversation that we can have too,
And we can have that conversation.
you
That's right. We talk about it. Let's talk about it.
know.
Another day, though, perhaps. But
Yeah, for sure. I think we just hit the 130 mark.
yep, we just hit the 1:30. We're gonna end it on a light note. Um, and if you could watch one movie for the rest of your life, which would it be and why?
I'll tackle that one. I feel like, yo, I can go with the one I brought up, Goodwill Hunting. There's just so much in that movie,
Yeah.
and I can rock with that one. I feel like that one played a big role in my life, and I didn't fully understand it. So I saw that movie from the public library, Hudson Public Library. Um, when at some point in my life, where that was the only place I could get movies from.
Oh, I'm with you.
um,
Library card and everything.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I feel like that movie I didn't fully grasp it all until like years
Goodwill
later,
Hunting.
just
So,
because of so many reasons. But I feel like that's a movie or Pay It Forward. I'll say that.
rest in peace, Rob Will.
Yes, sir.
Um, hmm. For me, let's see. I see. I can't beat that.
Have you seen Pay It Forward?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one too. I feel like
Yeah.
that one's
That
like another solid one that
that
like
was a
me.
sad movie.
Or if y'all really want to go at number one, then Passion of the Christ. But then that's just another conversation.
Uh.
I just that would be
Yeah.
like I want to take people on another another ride. Passion of the Christ, can't go wrong with that.
Movie for me. Hmm. I don't even know. I feel like I guess I'll take it back to my childhood. And I literally just watched this movie on Saturday.
Nice.
But me, I guess one of my favorite movies. Oh, that's a great movie as well, The Pursuit of
Pursuit of that.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Um, well, now I feel like I can't tell my movie. My movie's funny. Has nothing to do with life values.
Sheesh.
I just
Let me.
watched it because it was awesome.
Maybe that
Uh,
needs. Maybe you
um,
need to reflect on that real quick.
yeah, I guess.
What? Let me ask you this, and yo,
How about this?
what movie like rocked your world in that kind of level that you feel like it took you to a place where, and even we can even talk because I feel like there's some movies that are even on that kind of mentality as boys, like as boys or us too, we can relate of that, like
Yeah,
decide to want to belong to a group of friends or to like a that I feel like are impactful
yeah.
that I saw, or any movie that rocked your life, right? Really.
Feel like we're gonna have to come back to another
Come
episode
on.
on this one. I can't. I'm drawing a blank. Um,
The Notebook.
No.
Come on, man.
Uh,
Anybody else, whoever is watching or taps in, I want to hear what movie you guys rock with.
dang. Um, I guess in keeping up with the with our today's theme, really, I guess um I'll go with another Robin Williams movie, and I'll go with Mrs. Doubtfire,
Which one's that? Remind me, which one's
where
that?
she had to dress up as a nanny.
To
Yeah, yeah,
to
I'm saying
watch with kids, right? To like
yeah,
keep
yeah.
up with his
But
kids.
like my number one movie is Shrek. My wife already knows that. Like I literally watch that movie all the time. When I'm in a different mood. Oh,
Hey,
and The Sandlot. Like
The
what? Come on
Sandlot
now.
is good. You
Those
kidding?
are my movies.
Yo,
Um, I think he said The Sandlot because that was the movie that I played over and over and over and over and over as a kid. But I
and
would say Mrs. Doubtfire. I guess so Mrs. Doubtfire was when he had to dress up as an older woman because he wanted to see his children, and his wife um,
wasn't
put
having it,
a
right?
yeah, she wasn't having it, and it really allowed
Yeah.
him to grow and see. And his children didn't really know him because he was never around,
Hmm.
and it shows you those type of values where you know he learned to grow as himself. He learned to love his children, and he learned
Mm.
that his children became his number one focus
Mm.
above all else. And that's a great movie. But
Yes, sir.
yeah, I would say those are the movies that I watched as a kid. Um, but yeah, Goodwill Hunting I watched a lot as well.
Yeah.
I will say that. I think my wife and I watch it at least once a year.
Coach
Coach
Carter
Carter.
was good.
Oh,
Um.
the Gridiron Gang.
Yeah.
I watched that.
Yeah.
The
That
one with
was
the
good.
Rock in the jail in the
Yep.
juvenile
Yep.
detention center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, like all those like youth moving movies, like youth.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. Like those were the movies that I feel like I was constantly looking for because I was like again, right? I don't know what it was, but I was always trying to like I was longing for something, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's probably the best way that I can pinpoint it. And it was for a reason. And I think that brings us back to the whole conversation, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yo, I feel like I want to do a quick prayer, if that's okay with you. I just want,
Sure. We
you
got
know,
like 30, 40 seconds.
that's fine. I
We're at
just,
10 o'clock, but that's a fine.
I just
Yeah,
want to
go ahead.
say, I just want to say, God, thank you for the opportunity to even just use our creativity. Thank you for life itself, and to be able to work with Edwin, with Jay, and the community that has embraced us. And I just want nothing but what you want for us, what you want for me, and for this project and for our community. We need of your love and of your grace now more than ever, and we want to be somebody that can impact our community and our children. Um, Thank you for everybody watching. Thank you for Alyssa Daniels and her life. Please come through in this process of their life, and everybody watching, everybody that will tune in, that will come and go in the future and now. And Lord, I just want to say that this is for the bigger picture. So, um, this project is yours, and it's there for that community. So, thank you, and we surrender. We're all yours. Amen.
Amen.
But yeah, man, this was
Yeah,
good.
man.
And then again, back again on Thursday, right?
Yes, you guys. So I'll let the folks know I will not be present this Thursday to start the day. I don't think. Um, amen. Well, not on amen on that. I was just posting that.
Yeah, no, I know
Um,
it.
I will not be there to start the day. The night. I'm sorry. That will be you and Michael. That was my dad that said amen. By the way.
Good.
Um. Uh. But the guys have a. I'm sure we'll have a great show in store for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Um. It may be a little bit of freelancing like we did tonight. It was supposed to be a question and answer, and we got some questions in, but um, you know, I think for the most part, You guys will do great. I'll try to join in. I'm gonna watch you guys anyways
Sure.
while I'm at dinner.
Yep.
But I'll try to join when I get back if you guys are still on. We'll see. I might be back a little bit before 10 o'clock. So if you guys are still
Sounds good,
on,
Chief.
but yeah, I just want to thank everyone who watched today, and I think as far as our really deep conversations, this episode kind of shows you what we're really aiming to do, and along with promoting other people and promoting their passions, these are the conversations that we need to have,
Hmm.
and we need everyone to be engaged, and lend your ear, lend your voice, lend your texts, because give us those questions. Is there anything you want to leave it off with?
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to share this episode or episodes that really you feel that are going to be beneficial to the community outside the group. I know this is a private group and we're trying to figure out whether it's going to stay private or we just restart again and make it public. Um, but
Yeah.
I think even just with anybody watching or anybody that wants to share, make this public. Um, go ahead and do that, and I think that will take this conversation to another to another lane, in people's
Yeah.
lives and whatnot. So just want to encourage you guys to do that. And again, thank you so much for being part of this community and for stepping up. So um
Yes, sir.
love and grace always.
And
And
as always, let's talk about it. This is Edwin
let's
and
talk
Jose. We
about
out.
it. We out.